Welcome to monstervacuum.com. Today we will be putting in two new belts for the Dyson DC07, DC14, or DC33 model. You'll need to get these belts from monstervacuum.com. Part number 4626 for the belts, part number 3107 for the brush roller, or part 8905 for the whole kit, which includes two belts and a brush roller. Please make sure you have your vacuum unplugged. Most important before you start anything. We're going to look at this. This is the Dyson DC14 vacuum, which is, as I said, is the same as the Dyson DC7 and DC33 model. Just mostly different colors and different year that they were made. Now we take off the bottom plate. The bottom plate's held on with 3 screws that you have to turn a half turn, and that should take it out. As you can see, this belt looks pretty good on top here, but this isn't the problem. The problem is the clutch belt that goes from the clutch to the motor is the problem. While we're doing this, you might as well put in a new brush roller because it does take a little time to get this one out, and usually by the time it's ready to put the belts in, you're really kind of ready for a new brush roller. Now we take off this bottom plate as well. You have to take off the hose there, and the hose just kind of pops off, and then you take a screwdriver, put it underneath the bottom plate, and slowly and carefully just pop it off. You don't want to break anything. Dyson vacuums, after a while, sometimes can get a little bit brittle, the plastic, so be very careful with it. The next thing we want to do is there's a clutch cover, and it has 3 Torx screws on it. The Torx screws, there's 2 on the top, and there's one in kind of a little secret compartment, which I'll show you in a minute. So we take out those 2 Torx screws, and that secret compartment, you'll see the hole right there. The vacuum has to be turned at a certain angle to get to that, and you just loosen that up, and that'll take off the clutch cover. And once the clutch cover's off, then here we go, pulling off the clutch cover very easily, don't lose any screws. And then we see the clutch there, and you see the broken belt. Okay, and the broken belt fits onto the motor shaft. Now what we want to do is we want to take the clutch out. Just take a screwdriver lightly on either side. Before we do that, though, we have to take off that red piece. That red piece is the knob that adjusts the turn, changes it between floor and carpet. We put the screwdriver underneath and kind of pop it up, and then that knob should come right out. Now the knob sometimes flies across the room, so be careful. Now we just took the clutch out. You put a screwdriver right behind the clutch and just gently take it out. It kind of just fits in there by pressure. It's on little tracks. You see there, that's a little clip, and the clip has to come out. Now it's a U-shaped clip, and it's spring-loaded, and it's attached to the shaft that has a little indentation on the shaft. I use this little tool to open up the little spring so it'll pop right out. Just be careful, because sometimes that spring will fly across the room, and it's pretty hard to find. A lot of times I'll just, once I get in position, I will open it up and put my hand on top to prevent the spring from flying anywhere, which is a pretty good idea. Come on, we got to get in a second. There it is. Good. Now the spring will come out, and you see it. Very tiny U-shaped spring. Just put that somewhere. You'll need that later on. The next thing we have to do is take out the 2 screws on the bottom of the clutch. There are 2 small screws. They're also Torx screws, but it's a little bit smaller than the screws we had before. So we take these 2 screws out. Now we're going to take off the bottom of the clutch plate. The bottom of the clutch plate, there's like a little tab right over there, you'll see. And you have to just get a screwdriver and just kind of lift up, and to just get that tab free. Go very easy, because you don't want to break it. I have broken them, and then sometimes I'll just put a piece of black tape on the side to hold both pieces together, and it kind of, once you put it in back into the Dyson, it will stay there and it won't move. Remember, you have to order some parts from us from monstervacuum.com. Part number 4626, which is the 2 belts. Part number 3107 is the brush roller. Or part 8905 is the kit, which includes the brush roller and 2 belts. You get a better deal when you order the kit. Now you see there are 3 ball bearings. There's a lot of springs. That's the clutch plate on the bottom there. Sometimes the clutch plate will come out if it falls out. If it does, just put a drop of crazy glue, put it back in, and it'll stay there because it just needs to be there while you reassemble it, and that's it. The next thing we want to do is the belts include a wider belt, which is the belt that goes onto the brush roller, to the clutch, and then there's the narrow belt, which goes on to the clutch to the motor shaft. First thing we have to do is we have to take that white piece out of the clutch, and to do that, there's a little spring piece of metal on there. Just pop that out. You see that little spring right there? Well, hold on, I'll show you how to do this. You just kind of pop it out. Okay, it's out. And then you take out that white piece, just kind of slides out. Now you want to put the new belt in. You put the belt in through the hole on the clutch, and then you wrap it around the white piece and then push everything back in, so you have the belt sticking out. Very cool. And now you take this metal piece and you put it back on. Sometimes the metal piece will go flying across the room or get dropped on the floor and never land. So if this happens to you, just go find it, put it back in. If you need some help on which way it goes, just come back to the video and you can take a look. It only snaps on one side on one way, so it has to be on there on the same side as the bar is, and also has to be on the right way. The next thing we want to do is we have to put the ball bearings back in. There's 3 ball bearings. You just put them in the little indents on the bottom of that plate, and then that piece doesn't go next. That'll go after another piece, which you'll see in a second. Whoops, put the wrong piece in. Alright, you see that piece that has the 3 holes in it? That goes actually next. You put the ball bearings in, move them around with your finger until they get in the little dents, and then you put the piece that has the 3 holes in it next. Just drop that in. And now you put the piece on that has the 3 indentations on it. And it kind of fits a little bit like Jello. It kind of just bounces around a little bit in there. Then the next thing we want to do is put on that metal bar. And you see there's tabs on the side of that bar and there's indentations on the inside. The tabs on the bar have to go into the indentation, so everything has to be kind of pushed in pretty far. I like to use a small socket for this, just to help me keep everything pushed down while I turn it over to put the spring on. Okay. You see that? Now we're going to just take the socket, put it on the bottom just to hold it down. Sometimes this thing falls out. It's a little piece of plastic. It goes with the narrow end in first, and then you put that in, and then you put the bearing on top of that. Push it down with a screwdriver, put the bearing in on top of that. Push that down with a screwdriver, or you can use a needle nose pliers. And then once that's down, you have to go down below the little the indentation, because you're going to have to put that little spring back on. I find usually a needle nose pliers is the best thing to put the spring on. You kind of just push it down with the needle nose so it fits in the indentation. If you don't see the indentation, that usually means underneath that the whole clutch isn't in right, because it missed its little spot inside. And once it's in, there we go. Now the next thing we want to do is there's a metal gear we need to put on there. The rubber belt, this is the rubber belt. You'll have to order them from monstervacuum.com. Part number 4626. So for the 2 belts, the brush roll is 3105 and the kit is 8905, which includes everything. That's the clutch plate, and sometimes, as I said, that clutch will come out. So if it does come out, you can flip it over and use the other side, which sometimes I do. If it does come out, usually they're pretty good shape though. You You can flip it over, put 1 drop of crazy glue. This has to go on top. It's a little rusted, that's okay. Just put that on top. And now we're going to put the belt around the clutch piece, and it has to go around the inside of that little tab thing too. And now you put it all back in, and you kind of just snap it back in. See, if the clutch had fallen off here, you can't really snap it back in. That's why you have to use a little crazy glue. And there we go. It snaps back into the little tab, and you can see the belt is on either side of the clutch there, and there's a piece of plastic in the center. And now we put the screws back in, and now we're finished rebuilding the clutch. Now we take the clutch and we put it back into the vacuum. In the vacuum, there's a few ridges that you have to have slide onto the clutch. They kind of should fit in there pretty solidly, and you can see the little grooves and the grooves on there, and they kind of fit in together. And you just kind of push it in until it snaps in. That'll make a clicking noise. Good. And now we got to put the clutch cover back on. No, first, before we do that, we have to stretch out the belt and make it so it goes around the motor shaft. Probably the easiest thing to do is maybe a screwdriver, maybe 2 screwdrivers. Just when you go put it on there, make sure that the belt is not twisted at all. That it goes on there pretty flat. And then once you get that around there, then sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to get that belt on there, especially a new belt. They're pretty tight. You can see it's just perfect now. The next thing we want to do is put on the clutch cover. It only fits on one way. The clutch cover goes on until it kind of seats in there. If it doesn't go on perfectly, sometimes the clutch is misaligned and you just got to push that in a little bit better, or maybe it's not sitting on the grooves. There's also the 3 screws we have to put back, including the secret one. Okay, they're using a torque screwdriver, which is like a star type. You kind of, if you have a magnetic one, it kind of helps a lot. We're putting the screw into the secret one first, and then we'll put the screws into the other 2. We put back on the floating head, and this piece here, the red piece, yours might be yellow, yours might be purple. It just snaps right back on, right in the position where you left it, whether it's on carpet or if it's on hardwood floors. And now the next thing we want to do is put on the floating head with the hose. If you have taken off anything like the U-bends or things like that, you're going to have to put those on at the end as well. And we just kind of snap that on. Just be careful too, you don't want to break anything. Just snap it in gently. And then after that's snapped in, you're going to have to put the hose back on. The hose kind of snaps in as well. If you need a new hose, if yours is broken, we do have hoses at monstervacuum.com. Next thing we want to do is we have to put on the new brush roller. To put on the new brush roller, you have to get the belt out of that little hole there. Use a big screwdriver, that's what I kind of use. And push the new brush roller through the belt. You might need a second person. I don't know, I don't, but you might. And then just push the brush roller, the belt onto the brush roller, and the bottom and the top of the brush roller, just turn it around a few times to make sure it runs smoothly, just with your hands. And remember, the vacuum is unplugged, right? Now we put the cover on. Put the top of the cover on first, then push the bottom. It should go in there smoothly. If it's not, something's a little off. And then turn the screws half turn to lock them in. The next thing you want to do is test it out. Now, by doing this yourself, you probably save several $100s in bringing it to a repair facility, and you've done it all yourself, and you've fixed your Dyson and it works great. You can test it out by turning the knob for the clutch and see if it turns for the carpet, and you should stop when you go to hardwood floors. Remember, this is monstervacuum.com. Thank you.